back again. I've been away for a while. I don't know whether you've looked out the window recently. Fire, flood, plague, politics, protests. It's been a whole thing, and obviously there have been no cinema releases. However, I saw something 2 nights ago. Last night? 2 nights. Whatever. It's seared into my brain. It doesn't matter when it happened. The only thing is I wish I could forget it. Seeing as I'm fully dressed and not wearing pyjamas, I thought, hey, there's a thing I used to do, and it's called movie reviews. I have tea. I have opinions. Let's do this. This is my Hot Fuzz Sanford Police Station. For the greater good. Tell you what wasn't for the greater good. It's a bloody movie. Artemis Fowl. What can I say that hasn't been said already by people who are paid to do this for a living and therefore much better than I am? Just remember that this was a book that was meant to take on the Harry Potter mantle. Movies, eminently successful. People have been looking for that kind of a slightly younger skewing fantasy aspect, because Lord of the Rings are arguably adult in tone. So Disney poured money into this. This was made with Disney money. If anything, this is going to give hope for all of those screenwriters out there, because this script was passed and they gave it to Ken Branagh and then he made it with millions of dollars from Disney. Give it a bit of background. I read the books when I was a teenager. As you can imagine, that was a very long time ago. I mean, it's practically worthy of archaeological study, that era. My memory is spotty, but I was still excited for this movie to come out. I watched the trailer. I was less excited. It might have been a while ago, but it was a good enough book. And Owen Colfer is a good enough author. It seemed fresh and new, and, it had an anti-hero protagonist, an antagonist's point of view. Even though Artemis was a 12-year-old dick, you were kind of on side. And everything about the elf and fairy world felt fresh, really. I mean, it was a cross between science fiction and fantasy. I was ready, and then I watched it. Where was the book? What scriptwriter took what is basically a script and went, yeah, nah, this is going to be a spoiler review because I don't see the point in not making it so. I think we're all aware on the internet that this is bad. They killed Artemis's mother, they kept his father, who didn't come in until the second book, and now they've made it a whole, we've always known about fairies thing. Why? I don't have any other words. Except I do. That's a blatant lie. I have plenty of words. They are forthcoming. Judi Dench, what are you doing here? Does somebody have something over you? We can help. Just blink twice. If not, then Judi Dench is pulling her best Michael Caine in Jaws 4. Going for a holiday and hoping to buy an island with whatever she gets paid from this. So, fair play. Have I ever mentioned that I'm not really into child actors? Because, oh boy, this really doesn't help their cause. I've got nothing against these kids. Because quite frankly, Juliet Butler could not be there, and which is weird because she's the only one who can say dialogue as though it means something. Artemis Fowl is named for him. He's on screen the whole goddamn time. Yeah, I just wanted to drown myself in my lasagna. I'm for colourblind casting. Fine. But Holly Short, the main fairy, is meant to be brown. You had a shoe-in. From Indian to Southeast Asian to African American to African to Caribbean. It's times like this I wish there was alcohol in here. Why was there such a big to-do about Butler's name? The point of him is that he is called Butler. I'm taking it Owen Colfer did not have script approval. For me to say that Percy Jackson is a better book-to-film adaptation is implying something, because Rick Riordan of Percy Jackson fame is having them remade. I can only hope he has script approval, because whatever Disney did with this, because they're doing Disney Plus is doing the Percy Jackson books, and then they release this, and I'm like, my dudes, you are really not marketing yourselves as being able to adapt. Josh Gad is possibly the only person who's trying to do something. He plays Mulch Diggums, who is a dwarf. They've made him into a giant dwarf. He's trying to hold it together. They give him some of the best lines. He's trying with the delivery, the facial expressions. The thing is, he's also the framing monologue. Yes, there is a framing monologue. Why? That just means that you hear his voice for an hour and a half. The movie's only an hour and a half. That's the one thing in its favour. It's bloody short. And it was, thank God, Ken Branagh made it short. I don't think he was the right director for this. He obviously had no control. It doesn't have pacing. It doesn't have the feet to have pacing. It is a slug of mediocrity. The movie ends up as an exposition and extraneous MacGuffin clusterfuck. They are explaining characters who don't really know each other, we don't get introduced to, doing things that we don't care about. That's it. It's an hour and a half of description. So there isn't really a story, despite the fact that the novel definitely did have a story, and what story there was needlessly convoluted. So, full marks all across the board. Well done. Why does everybody in this film sound like they need a cough drop? I had one laugh, 1.5. And that's because A, I love David Bowie, and B, Judi Dench impersonates a leprechaun. I mean, it was either that it was funny or that I was now experiencing Stockholm Syndrome. To cleanse my palate, I'm gonna have to watch Spy Kids again. Just so you know, that film, it was filmed 20 years ago. It's filmed in 2000, released in 2001. Spy Kids knocks this out of the park. We've spent enough time in the youth movie industry these days, particularly dealing with fantasy, to know how to put these films together, and you give us this. Disney is lucky that the pandemic has given them an excuse not to put this out in cinemas, because they would be laughed out of screening rooms. Why was the dialogue so poor? You have books where there's dialogue. That is not the media that was lacking. It was the pictorial element of it. No, I think that there was meant to be a sad bit. Because I didn't care about anybody, I couldn't really tell, apart from the fact that the score got marginally more insipid, and I think there was some soft focus. Mr. Colin Farrell, welcome to the headmistress's office. Sit down. We need to have a chat. You haven't only let me down and let everybody else down, you've let yourself down. Judging you hard. I'm hoping you got paid a lot of money for this. At least you've had the decency to look like you're in pain. They set up a sequel. They set up a sequel. Right, so Haven City was the best bit. It looked pretty cool. However, the interiors of Haven City did look as though an Apple store had sex with a Hot Topic outlet. Why was Holly a child? Why was everything so overproduced? Why was there a framing monologue? Why did you not use the dialogue or the plot from the book? The criminal element underwritten. Is this because it's for kids? Because children do know the difference between right and wrong. They know that even though the criminals might seem cool, that they're in the wrong. So I think perhaps Disney looked at Artemis in the books and said, he's too cool. We're going to have to make them secretly good guys. Kids for a couple of generations now have looked at Basil the Great Mouse Detective and known that though Ratigan is by far the coolest person in it, I mean anybody who can pull off a cloak and a monocle, but we also know he's the bad guy. It's not necessary. There was a bit at the end where it closes on the Josh Gad monologue. Thank God it finally ends. Maybe I just perked up because it was the end of the movie, so I don't know why this stuck out to me. There are some strings that intimate that it's a bit Mission Impossible-y, and I was like, don't you dare. Thankfully they didn't. They didn't go the whole hog, because then I would have defenestrated my laptop and I don't have any money to buy a new one. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that no, just no. 0 stars, never darken my doorway again, disappointed everyone and yourselves, and if you sequel. Keep safe, stay well, wear a mask. For God's sake, it's not hard.